All right, good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Good, awesome. Well, we are excited to be worshiping with you guys. And if it's your first time, welcome to Granite Church. We're happy to have you here. If you are willing and able, would you please stand and we're going to sing a few songs together? Who breaks the power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger, the King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. You would take my place. You would bear my cross. Oh, you laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes this orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance, the King of glory, the King above all kings. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. You would take my place. You would bear my cross. Oh, you laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. You would take my place. You would bear my cross. Oh, you laid down your life, that I would be set free. Whoa, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Sing together. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true, 'cause I am found. 'Cause I am found. I am yours. I am loved. I'm made pure. I have life. I can breathe. I am healed. I am free. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true, 'cause I am found. 'Cause I am found. I am yours. I am loved. I'm made pure. I have life. I can breathe. I am healed. I am free. You are strong. You are strong. You are sure. You are alive. You endure. You are good. Always true. You are light. Breaking through. Here's my heart. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my life. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. When all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Sing it out. He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree bending beneath the weight of his wind and mercy. All of a sudden, when all of a sudden I am unaware of these afflictions eclipsed by glory, I realize just how beautiful you are and how great your affections are for me. Oh, us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us so. Oh, how he loves us. How he loves us so. Yeah, he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. We are his portion. And we are his portion. And he is our prize. Drawn to redemption by the grace in his eyes. If grace is an ocean, we're all sinking. So heaven meets earth like an unforeseen kiss. My heart turns violently inside of my chest. I don't have time to maintain these regrets when I think about the way that he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Yeah, he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves us. Oh, how he loves. Just the voices. Yeah, he loves us. You God, we're so grateful and humbled by your love for us, how it continues to wash over us in new ways every day. And we're just so thankful for the way we get to experience you and your love. And I pray that as we prepare to hear the message, that you would be with us, that you would open our hearts and open our ears to hear what you have for us today. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys can be seated.
Hey, good morning. Glad you're here with us this morning or joining us online. My name's Cy McMahon, pastor here at Granite Church. And so to be real, I just want to be a little vulnerable, I guess, or just really, really honest with you. I'm tired. And part of that is, so for me, and I don't, this probably happens for you too, sometimes in your worlds. But for me, like Sunday morning is kind of like, you get up and this is the deal. Most of you think this is the only hour I work a week. So, like, you should be up. I mean, like, come on. So, and that's kind of how it works, really, in my own little brain. So, if I wake up on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, then when I wake up, I start thinking about what has to happen to make Sunday morning happen, or what has to happen during Sunday morning, and my mind gets going, and then it's over. Like there's no more sleeping. And so this morning that happened at 3:38 a.m. Very specific time because I was like, oh, it's over. Which is, it's fine, right? Everybody gets up at 3:30-ish. Okay. And so like normally you're like, hey, I got to peak about the time that we're doing services. So on a normal Sunday, my peak energy level and excitement's around the 8 o'clock hour, which still robs all of you of that. And so if you think I'm nuts, you should be here earlier. It's even worse. And if you don't, then you're here at a good time. So this morning it was like at 6 something. So like it's been a long day. But that's not the only reason I'm tired. I mean, that's a funny excuse, But the reality is this has been a long season, right? And so you got all the Corona stuff, and that's exhausting. And we've actually been really lucky, right? So I don't know if you have friends from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, but some places have been on like full-on shutdown since March. Like I have friends that have barely left their homes. Barely left their homes since all of this started. Like I feel like we've been pretty lucky. Praise the Lord, the children have been in school. Hallelujah, come on. Some places that hasn't been the case. They've been doing online school since March of last year. And so like we've been really lucky, but we're still just tired. And there's so much anxiety in our society right now about all of the stuff to do with health and how we are taking care of ourselves and each other. And then there was an election, I guess. I'm not real clear on what that's about, but seems to come up occasionally. And like there was a ton of anxiety and angst and energy around that in the fall. And then as the transition is coming upon us, then this pops up again. And you can't help but feel a little dirty. Like, feel like, man, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And it doesn't matter. This is not a political statement. It's just not supposed to look like that. It isn't. And so, tired from that. There's just been other stuff just draining me personally. I'm not putting this on you. I'm just saying me personally, just tired. So thankfully, right? So this series, best sermon ever. This is not me calling my shot. This is not, I'm about to tell you something really, really, really important. It's going to be so good. No, this is Jesus' best sermon ever, and it's quite remarkable, really. It's known as the Sermon on the Mount, and it's found in the book of Matthew. The book of Matthew is one of the 4 stories of Jesus' life known as the Gospels. And so we find the Sermon on the Mount there, and that is the best sermon ever. It's about 3 chapters of Scripture, and it's 100% all about what it looks like to follow Jesus. All right, so I'm going to read through it, and this is all Jesus speaking. So this isn't me telling you these things. This is what Jesus has to say about a number of different topics. And then we're going to land in a spot that's very appropriate for what we've just experienced in this last week. And so where we land is it's kind of wild how God works this stuff out, because we scheduled this. It was August or September of last year. That's when we scheduled this all out, and it just happens that this passage is going to land on this week. So I'm going to read through a few verses, dive into those quick, and kind of keep churning through them. So hang with me. The book of Matthew, chapter 5, starting in verse 17. And here we go. Don't misunderstand why I have come. This is Jesus speaking again. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I have come to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. So if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of the religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. All right, so teaching about the law. What on earth does this have to do with us? And good question. That's fair. Jesus is talking about this because we need to remember Jesus is speaking on a hillside on the northwest edge of the Sea of Galilee, speaking to Jewish people. So 100% Jewish people, that's who his followers are at this point. And so he has to tell the Jewish people, hey, listen, I am not taking everything away from you. right? So what is a little bit different in the Jewish culture from what we generally experience, for the Jews, being Jewish was everything to them. So the Jewish religion was their entire lifestyle. It's kind of how they saw the entire world, was through the fact that Judaism was their religion. Now, for the most part, that's not how we function here in Western society. For some of us do, right? Some of us live that way as if Jesus is the center of their life, and they live everything through Him, and He's actually Lord of their life, and that's who I want to be when I grow up. But for the most part, most of us live as if Christianity or following Jesus is a part of our life. And so this is very important for Jesus to say this to His audience, because He's saying, listen, I am not taking everything away from you. The foundation that you've been given, this law of Moses, which for us is the first 5 books of our Bible, the first 5 books of our Bible, that was the entire Jewish religion. I'm not taking that away from you. In fact, I'm saying that is good. That's the foundation of what I've come to do. I'm just accomplishing the purpose of that law. Jesus has come to accomplish the purpose of that law. So the purpose of that law was to make it very, very clear that we cannot restore or redeem the relationship between us and God on our own. We need help. And that last little line in that section where it talks about how unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, then you're not getting into the kingdom of heaven. And the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were the most righteous of all of the Jewish people. And if that's the case, right, then we don't have a shot. That's exactly Jesus' point. You don't have a shot. You need Him. He is the accomplishment of these things, He Himself. And so it's interesting because there's all these little tidbits about what that can mean for our future and for the future of the Jewish people that he doesn't get into right now, and we don't have time to, because we got to keep going. There's a lot of these little things, all right? So I got work to do. Next one, starting in verse 21. You have heard that our ancestors were told, you must not murder. It's fair, right? We're all good with that one? All right. If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. But I say, again, this is Jesus speaking, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. So if you're presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go and be reconciled to that person, then come and offer your sacrifice to God. When you are on the way to court with your adversary, settle your differences quickly, otherwise your accuser may hand you over to the judge, who will hand you over to an officer, and you will be thrown into prison. And if that happens, you surely won't be free again until you have paid the last penny. Jesus says, don't murder. Don't even call people names. Don't curse somebody. Like, he's just spending his time upping the ante. Here's the law that you're aware of. I've come to accomplish their purpose, and I'm telling you, it's actually harder than that law to get into the kingdom of heaven of your own doing. That's the point, right? He's trying to make. Now, so Jesus shows up, and the first thing that he tells us in this passage is, I am here to accomplish this purpose, and that is to redeem and restore the relationship between the broken, messed up humans and God. It's through me, it's through Jesus that can happen. So Jesus is saying, I'm here to fix this relationship. In our lives, there are two kinds of relationships. There's this relationship between us and God, and then there's this horizontal relationship. This is between us and others. Jesus says, I have this one, you go fix this one. And how important is it that we fix these horizontal relationships? Well, the context is a little lost on us, right? Because none of you can remember what I said because I read it really quickly and I've been talking about other stuff, and that's fine. But basically what it says is like somebody is going to a temple to do some sort of sacrifice, never heard of it, never seen it, I don't do it, not going to do it, I don't care. Fair. But here's the deal. They were going to the temple in Jerusalem, right? He was having this conversation on the northwest corner of the Sea of Galilee. That's about 40 miles, right? They weren't hopping in their Prius to drive down to Jerusalem, all right, friends? Like, they were poor fishermen and farmers. They were going to walk 40 miles to go to the temple. Because they were poor, they weren't going to go to the temple just any old time. They were probably only going to go to the temple to offer a sacrifice at the festivals, at the main huge festivals in which all of the people, all of the Jews from all over the world would come back to the temple. So not only are they going to walk 40 miles, but they're probably going to stand in a line to wait, to sacrifice. Because they weren't going to be the only people headed to the temple at the time that they were going to go. So what Jesus is saying is, you're going to walk 40 miles to the temple. You're going to get your animal that you're going to sacrifice. You're going to wait in the line that's maybe 2 or 3 days long to go sacrifice your animal. And what Jesus is saying, it's actually more important for you. It's more important for you to fix the relationship with your brother or sister who has something against you than it is to sacrifice at the temple altar. That would have messed some people up, friends. What it's saying is, nothing is more important than your relationship with other people. So that's a huge, huge deal. It's more important than the one thing that you can do as a Jewish person to try to restore your relationship with God and put you back into a place of righteousness. God says, your relationship with others is more important than that. So leave it, walk away, go fix it, and then come back. That's a big deal. Next one. Ooh, this will be fun. Adultery. Same response I got first service. They're like, well, we don't need to talk about that. All right, here we go. You have heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, I'm not real sure what that's in reference to. Obviously, a lot of bad eyes. A lot of fake eyes in Israel back in the day. Even your good eye causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, that one makes more sense, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Jesus is just upping the ante. You've heard it say, do not commit the act. I'm telling you, don't even think about it. That is how much righteousness you must have in order to enter into the kingdom of heaven of your own doing, also known as AKA, by the way, try explaining what AKA means to your 9-year-old child. Very challenging. We did that this week with Micah. I might have gave up. We'll revisit it in 10 or 12 years. Like, this is the thing that Jesus is trying to get across. You can't do it. You can't do it on your own. You can't do it on your own. We've tried. It's been failure after failure after failure after failure. And the law, what he's talking about is the law is the baseline, right? The law is the least. Actually, the requirement is higher. than that. That's what he's communicating. That's what he's telling us, is the actual requirement to enter into the kingdom of heaven is higher than even the law. We cannot do it on our own. We need Jesus to do it. He just keeps taking it up a notch. Teaching about divorce, another fun one. The hits keep coming. If you have heard that the law says a man can divorce his wife by merely giving her a written notice of divorce. But I say that a man who divorces his wife, unless she has been unfaithful, causes her to commit adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman also commits adultery. I want you to understand here a couple things. First off, if you are listening to this, if you're either in the room or you're listening online and you are divorced, God does not hate you. God does not hate divorced people. That's not what this says. That is not what Jesus is saying through this. That is not the point. Right? The point that Jesus is making is that we cannot make marriage just about the piece of paper. Right? So, in case you don't know, right, and some of you don't, in case you don't know, when you get married, they give you a little piece of paper. You've probably signed it, or somebody in your wedding party signed it. The government issued it, and it says at the top of it, certificate of marriage, so that you can prove that you are married to someone. And it's a neat little typed out piece of paper. Right? And I would wager a guess that the majority of people in the room who have been married for more than 13 minutes have no idea where that's at. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm sure we have one. Isn't that filed with the state? Right? It's like this little piece of paper doesn't make the marriage. So Jesus' point is, if the little piece of paper doesn't make the marriage, then it doesn't dissolve the marriage either. That's all he's saying. He doesn't want us to be so flippant about divorce, because the divorce laws back here were a lot cheaper than they are today. And if a guy just wasn't happy with his wife, he's just like, here's a piece of paper, bye. He's just saying, like, that's not what this is about. Marriage before God is a covenant that we make. So when I got married to my wife, I made a covenant. I personally made a covenant with God. And my wife, she personally, individually made a covenant with God. And we did that at the same time together with God. Our covenant is with God, not with each other. You can only make a covenant with God. You can't do that with other people. And the point of this is not to beat up people who are divorced. It's just to tell everyone in society there is way more to it than a piece of paper. Do not take it lightly. I could spend a couple of weeks talking about divorce. I don't have time for it today, but if you have questions, if you are divorced and you're concerned about what I said or what this book says about it or what this particular passage says about divorce, please find me at Next Steps. I would love to talk with you, because I don't want you to think that anybody is calling you out on there. So, all right, teaching about vows. That's the next one. Verse 33. You have also heard that our ancestors were told, you must not break your vows. You must carry out the vows you make to the Lord. But I say, do not make any vows. Do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne. And do not say by the earth, because the earth is his footstool. And do not say by Jerusalem, for Jerusalem is the city of the great king. Do not even say by my head, for you can't turn one hair white or black. I seem to be able to turn a lot of hairs white. Just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. All right? Vows aren't a big part of our society like they were back in Jesus' time, but suffice it to say, what Jesus is saying is just say yes or no. Don't say I promise or I swear I'll do this for you. Just let your yes be yes or your no be no. You don't need to add anything to it. There should be integrity in your word. Just rock with that. All right. Next one. You have heard the law that says. All right, so just so you know, all of these start with you have heard, right? So it was an oral society. They would have spoken the law to all of these people. They had never probably read it because most of these people weren't able to read, but they would have heard it. And because they were an oral society, which, by the way, we are not, which is why you don't retain most of what I say, but in oral societies, they would have been able to retain like 80% of the words that were spoken, and they would have heard this over and over again, so they would have actually been getting this. So that's why they keep saying that. All right. You have heard the law that says, the punishment must match the injury, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also. If you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it for 2 miles. Give to those who ask, and don't turn away from those who want to borrow. It says, the headline there says, teaching about revenge. Like, who has heard of the saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth before this morning? Who's heard of that? Heard that one out there, right? So, comes from the Bible, right? Jesus is saying that doesn't work. That doesn't work. This has been something that's been written down, right? So this particular passage has been out there for not quite 2,000 years, but for quite a while. This has been out there as like, hey, the whole eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth thing doesn't work. Just bless someone who's trying to take something from you. But we haven't really picked up on this one yet. Like generally, societally, like we don't quite get this one. Because we want the revenge. We want, if someone hurts us, we're going to hurt them back. If someone says something mean to us, we're going to say something mean to them. If somebody humiliates us on social media, we're going to humiliate them back. If someone takes something from us, we want to make sure they pay for it, or we're going to take something from them. That is our heartbeat. And maybe not individually, right, but societally for certain. And most of us, for a lot of things, it's like, well, yeah, you can take that, and you could take that, and I wouldn't care about that. But then I could get to something that you're like, well, no, you couldn't have that, right? Like we can get there. Jesus is like, no, don't get in this silly battle of eye for an eye or tooth for tooth. And we actually have footage, right? We have footage of what this whole concept of an eye for an eye actually looks like if you're looking at it from an outsider's perspective instead of being face-to-face with someone. We have footage of what this actually looks like, so check out the screen.
Nice and easy, Dex. Ooh. Oh.
Good Lord, Lawrence, why are you slapping a monkey?
Best thing about this clip is it goes on too long, about 10 seconds too long, right? Right? So at first you're all like, he has lost his mind. That's what you first think. And then you're like, oh, it's funny because you see the guy and the monkey are just slapping each other, and that's stupid. And then you chuckle, and then it keeps going. And you're like, okay, that's awkward. Are they going to stop? I'm uncomfortable. Right? But that's how it works. That's how ridiculous we look when we are one of the participants in this. You did this to me, I'm going to do this to you. You did this to me, I'm going to do this to you. And we just keep going and going and going and going. And we look like a guy with shaving cream on his face smacking a monkey over and over again. Doesn't make any sense. But we do it. but we do it. And because we're not just a monkey, we tend to escalate it. And just keep taking it up another notch and another notch and another notch and another notch until it ends up being an explosion so out of control, all outsiders think, wow, that's too far. I can't think of any recent examples of that at all. And we're not done yet, huh? How about one more passage? Who's ready? Everybody's like, what is next? Oh, no. Love your enemies. Here we go. You've heard the law says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. In that way you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven, for he gives sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. If you love only those who love you, what reward is there for that? Even the tax collectors do that much. If you are kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even the pagans do that. But you are to be perfect even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Now, many of us might think, well, I don't have any enemies. I'm not at war with anyone. Oh, that's fine. Who really frustrates you in conversation? Who do you avoid? We live in small towns, right? I mean, like, it doesn't matter what town you came here from. We all live in small towns. Who do you avoid if you see them at the other end of the aisle at Walmart or Hy-Vee or Fairway or Sunshine or... Who do you roll your eyes at every time you hear them talk? We all have enemies. It's not necessarily stand across the field from each other and point our muskets at each other enemies. That's a history reference for some of you. But we have enemies. Who, no matter what they say to you, you know your response is going to be snarky because of all that they've ever done to you or said to you before. We have enemies. And our response thus far with those people in our lives hasn't worked. And you know how I can say that that is true for you? Even though I don't know who your enemies are or how you've treated them thus far, is because you still have them. Because Jesus says, love your enemies. And if we loved our enemies, then they would no longer be enemies. Right? There's a quote this is attributed to Abraham Lincoln, but he just heard this from somewhere else, and he likely probably said it at some point, or it's at least something that sounds like that he might say. As someone was asking him, why are you treating those people in the South so nicely after what they've done? And Honest Abe's response is this: Madam, do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? If we love our enemies, they will no longer be our enemies. This isn't easy. This isn't one of those places where it's like, follow Jesus, everything's going to be better. It's like, follow Jesus. It's really hard. It's very difficult. Thankfully, there's grace. He allows us, we mess up all the time, and it's okay. But he asks us to do really hard things. Like, don't take revenge. And love our enemies. Sounds like a tall order. Another piece in here is pray for those who persecute you. And last week, if you were here, I said that we really don't have a lot of persecution. We don't really have a lot of persecution here. So what can we do? What can we do with that one? Pray for the people who don't like you. Pray for them. Pray for your enemies. Who have you been mad with recently? Sick of, frustrated with? There don't have to be shots fired for someone to be your enemy. Again, this is Jesus talking. This isn't my suggestion for how you should live your life. This is Jesus's. Like, the words are even red. I don't know if you can see that. Even red words. This is what he asks. No. We should at least be up for trying something different. That's what I think. Like, the way we've tried doesn't seem to be going super well. Our methods seem to be at best inexact, right? There seems to be more conflict in our conversation than ever. There is no longer an agree to disagree, but we can still be friends. There is just a polarizing effect of people who see things differently. And we could blame it on a whole bunch of things, right? And if you would like to do that, again, I'll be at Next Steps and we can have that conversation. But at least one of the things that we can blame it on is us, as followers of Jesus, not loving our enemies. And if you're here in the room and you're not a follower of Jesus, yeah, take a breath. Like, this isn't for you. This is for those of us who are claiming to be followers of Jesus. That we are the ones who are supposed to love our enemies. And I haven't seen a lot of that recently. And I hope I'm just missing it. I hope it's out there all over the place and I just haven't seen it. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. But I wonder if we all could do our part. So that's what we're going to talk about next. Band, you guys can come on up. So here's our to-do for this week, right? So here, if you come to Granite, if you're going to watch on Granite, we're going to try to give you something to go do with the Word of God, the passage that we read. And so here's our to-do for this week. I want you to think of who your list of enemies is. Who you're at odds with. Who are you struggling with? Where's some pain in your world? Write down a list of enemies. if you're struggling, right? If you're struggling with that, then just ask God for some help. He'll answer. He loves that. Help him. Ask him to help you figure it out. Who should be on your list? And then, here's what we do. You get your list. There's two things we can do, right? First one is I want you to pray. Ask God, God, how do you want me to love my list of enemies? How do you want me to love each person? Go through, read each person's name. Say it out loud in your head. Read each person's name. Ask God, how do you want me to love that person? See what he says. Go down each person. Then I want you to go back to the top of your list, and the second thing I want you to do is I want you to pray for each person, and not the righteous prayer of, God, I pray that fiery coal lands in their house prayer. You're missing it a touch. Pray God's goodness and love and grace. Pray for good things to happen for your list of enemies. And here's the deal. We're asking for change to happen. We're praying, right? We're praying for change. That's the whole idea of prayer. Like there's fun little signs out there like, when you pray, stuff happens. When you pray, things start changing. That is totally true. When you pray, things change. Guess what changes? You. When you pray for your enemies, they won't change, but you will. When you love your enemies, all bets are off. Anything could happen because we don't even have a category for that. Why not? Why not? If you're here today and you don't understand this following Jesus stuff, you don't get Jesus, you never said yes to Jesus, I want you to hear very, very clearly, like, this assignment isn't for you, but I want it for you because I want you to be able to live a life where you love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind and all your strength. You love your neighbor as yourself, and you love your enemies. I want that for you, not because it's easy, not because there's some easier life that comes with it, because that's not true. I think it's hard. Every day is hard, but it's better. I'm better than I used to be because Jesus is living inside of me and he's totally changed my life. And I want that for you. So you may not know how to pray for your enemies. So we're gonna try to practice that a little bit here before we sing a song. So if when you're praying, you got your list of enemies, you're going to ask God, how can I love them? And then I just want you to pray for each one. It could go something like this. God, I know that you love this person. I know that you made this person and that they're made in your image. Lord, teach me to love them like I love you. Teach me to see them with your eyes. Lord, I pray grace and hope and joy and love for this person. Not because of anything that they have done, but because of all you are. For them and for me. And we're going to sing a song right now that kind of fits right into this vein of things. If you're able and willing, would you stand and sing with us, please?
Spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love brought to me. You have been so, so good. I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind. Sing it out. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I could earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
has already done all the work that he needs to do in this one. So what's left to do is for us to respond, right? So the Word of God has been there for years and years and years and years, and it's been available to us, even this group, for your entire life. Now it's up to us to choose, because you could say, well, I've never heard it that way before, or this is new to me, but now you've heard it. How are you going to respond? Are you going to love your enemies? Are you going to pray for those who persecute you? Are you going to do something different than the way you've led your life to this point, or are you going to look like somebody slapping a monkey? You can keep looking ridiculous if you want, but there's another way. There's a better way, and it's the way of Jesus. I pray that we, I'm counting myself in here, choose that way. I hope that's what you choose this week. As you're praying for your enemies, as you're asking God, how can you best love them? Thanks for being here today. We're going to be right back here next week. I hope you can join us. Invite a friend. Jesus has a lot more to say in the best sermon